2025 will go down in history as the year that the big two superhero comic companies joined forces once again, and to honor this union, the Scarlet Speedster is meeting up with the First Family. All this and more in the pages of DC Marvel The Flash Fantastic Four issue number 1. Alrighty then, so Marvel got to put out a digital crossover this week, and now DC gets to do the same courtesy of Jeremy Adams. As we join the book, we see Reed Richards lost in thought. It looks like he's doing something very important, but then the story pulls back and we see that he's actually playing a board game with his family, Gothamopoly. It's like Monopoly, but with more Gotham. In the ensuing conversation, we learn that Reed is probably one of the worst people in the world to play a board game with. Not only does he take everything very seriously, but he's obsessed with planning ahead and planning for the future. The game has to be put on the back burner, though, as at that very minute, the Baxter Building ends up coming under attack by Flash arch nemesis as well as giant psychic ape Gorilla Grodd. Why is the sinister simian here right now? Well, it seems he wants to steal Reed Richards' mental amplifier, which is just one of those things that he keeps knocking around in the back next to the spare ultimate nullifiers and Christmas lights. But as we quickly learn, Grodd hasn't come here on his own. He has mentally enthralled Barry Allen the Flash and is now using him as his own personal weapon. Luckily, the First Family has a long history of fighting speedsters, and because of that, Reed says it's time for Sue to use the Quicksilver Protocol, which is basically a fancy way of saying make a big invisible wall for Barry to run into, which is exactly what he does, and the Force proves to be everything he needed to knock himself back to reality. Now, you might also be wondering why cross over the Flash and Fantastic Four of all characters. Well, Barry is something of a scientist, and as we learn, the only reason that Grodd even got the idea to rob the Fantastic Four is because Barry actually respects Dr. Richards so much as a scientist and was very interested in his brand new technological advancements. Also, they both have big extended families, though we don't really get a chance to hang out with the Flash family in this issue, and I suppose Barry is currently traveling through the multiverse mapping things, not unlike how the Fantastic Four love to travel and go on adventures wherever the cosmic winds may take them. Now, Grodd may have lost control of the Flash, but that doesn't stop him from jumping into all the different members of the Fantastic Four and getting all the heroes to attack each other. Barry knows that Grodd can't control too many strong minds at once and hopes to use this to his advantage. Unfortunately, when he thinks he has Grodd cornered, a mentally dominated Reed ends up using his brand new prototype tachyon dimensional pen, which is basically a fancy word for saying a pen that when he clicks it, it can send people, well, anywhere and everywhere. In the case of the Flash, the Human Torch, the Thing, and the Invisible Woman, they all end up getting sent to the far future, from which they are not exactly sure how they're supposed to return. You should really enjoy this image of their backs too, because this is like the one time they all end up standing together and they're not even all here. The future is dangerous for a number of reasons, not the least of which being the future is where Eobard Thawne, the Reverse Flash, just so happens to make his home. Sue ends up walking away with probably the line of the issue when she says to Barry, "Hey, is this guy a fan of yours?" Only for the Flash to retort, "Well, yes, but no." Well, it's a long story. The heroes fight off Reverse Flash for a while before Barry puts together that perhaps they can travel back through the Speed Force using their leftover tachyons to guide them back to the very era that they left, which is basically, again, just a lot of scientific technobabble as to better facilitate what ends up happening next. The Invisible Woman creates a fantastic car out of pure energy. The Flash lashes himself to the craft like a reindeer on Santa's sleigh so that they can all travel back together through time and space. Along the way, Barry takes this opportunity to explain the concept of the Speed Force to his brand new scientific friends. How it is an ancient and primal force that ties many of his friends and enemies all together, and why, yes, this is where they throw in all the cameos. We get a little bit of Jay Garrick doing battle against Dr. Element, Bart Allen Impulse duking it out with Abracadabra, and of course we had to get a little Wally West as the Flash in here too, because he's pretty much everyone's favorite. Now, if you're like me, you might also be thinking to yourself, ooh, are they going to use this as an opportunity to show us some cool moments from throughout the Fantastic Four's long and storied history? The answer ends up being a surprising and very resounding no. In fact, looking back at it, this whole special one-shot issue is really geared more toward the Flash than anything else. Now, the good guys managed to make it back to the present, or whenever it is that this story takes place, in just enough time to see Grodd don the mental amplifier. He says that the power will make him unto a god, but not to worry, because bringing all of this back to where the story began, Reed had managed to plan ahead. He briefly was able to get inside Barry's mind when Grodd linked them, and because of that, he knew that he was a smart guy who who would be able to get his family away from danger and back through time if he activated his experimental tachyon pen. As far as taking down Gorilla Grodd goes, don't worry, we don't even need to have a fight, for you see, that wasn't the mental amplifier, that was the mental de-amplifier. Wah wah. As the comic comes to an end, the family doesn't so much return to their board game as Reed and his new best friend Barry take this opportunity to test each other with multiple ongoing games of chess. It seems that Mr. Fantastic has finally found someone who is not only smart enough but quick enough to keep up with him. And so that was DC Marvel The Flash Fantastic Four issue number 1, everyone, and overall I thought this one was honestly kind of forgettable. Don't get me wrong, there's certainly some good ideas here, but the book almost seems to go out of its way to try and not make the most of any of these ideas. Like I said, The Flash and the Fantastic Four have these big extended families, but this is really more of a story about Barry and Reed than it is anyone else. Even though that's not really true because they spend 95% of the story apart from one another. Instead, we have The Flash taking the Fantastic Four on what is essentially a guided tour of how cool his own personal life and history is, with honestly not very much commentary from the four themselves. It's honestly kind of weird to know that this is the first of the DC side of these brand new Marvel DC crossovers, and to have the first story they tell be so slanted in favor of the Flash. The main villain is a Flash villain. It's the Flash's connection to the Speed Force that ends up saving the day. Outside some funny one-liners here and there, the Fantastic Four really don't have much to do at all in this one, which is a real shame. For what it's worth though, and for the sake of comparison, I actually did prefer the art in this one over the one from the Shazam Thor crossover. I know that's not really saying much, when I also said it's weird that all of the characters in this story don't end up sharing a panel together in any meaningful way. And I mean, seriously, what's the point of doing a big crossover if you're not gonna have some bombastic hero shot? Hell, even the cover is weird in that regard, with Grodd taking up most of the space over the heroes themselves. Just not how I would have done it. Overall, I think I feel comfortable giving this one a 6 out of 10. There's nothing particularly bad about it. I didn't feel like I got cheated reading it, but I also feel like they really missed a lot of great opportunities here. Hey there everyone, it's your pal Cape Joel again, and if you're seeing my face right now, that means you watched to the end of the video, and I'll always be grateful for that. Retention helps in this crazy YouTube game, and so does becoming a patron. If you head on down to the description, you can find a link to my Patreon page. Recently just redid all the tiers, a lot of cool stuff offering up there, exclusive commentaries, exclusive polls, behind the scenes concept art for Capes and Quest. That's the brand new D&D show I've started soon. Never been a better time to become a patron. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month and help the channel grow, and help me continue to deliver content like what you just saw. So I want to thank you all, and I will see you again next time. Bye bye.